Okay, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. All right, guys, it's Tuesday, and it's September 22nd, and it's 9:45 p.m. Eastern Time, so let's get into the news. But first, I have someone to thank here. Wendy Anderson, thank you so much for your donation via coffee. I appreciate that very much. It does keep me doing what I do. So anyway, we are going to jump right into the news today because there's quite a bit of it, but then there always is anymore. So let's just start at the beginning because, that's always a very good place to start. All right, and we've got Democrats threaten to fly to Washington and prevent Senate vote on SCOTUS nominee, lay down on floor to block entry to Senate. Tucker Carlson open. Now, this is from yesterday, but doesn't that just sound so mature? They threatened to fly to Washington and prevent the Senate vote by laying down on the floor to block entry to the Senate. Well, that's mighty mature of them, but yeah. Anyway, Tucker Carlson opened his show on the left's latest threats against the Republicans, the U.S. president, and America. Democrats are determined to prevent the Republican president and Republican Senate to nominate and confirm the next Supreme Court justice to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The 87-year-old Ginsburg passed away at home on Friday. Now, Democrats are threatening impeachment of President Trump and Attorney General Bill Barr, and Democrats are even threatening to block access to the Republican senators from entering the U.S. Senate chamber in the U.S. Capitol building. Gavin Newsom's chief of staff, Ann O'Leary, tweeted out that she's ready to lay down and block GOP senators from entering the U.S. Capitol to vote on the next Supreme Court of the United States justice. And Ann O'Leary here says, "I know I have the power and the life. I have that allows me to fight for the rights of those without power because of women like RBG. Now it is our turn." And she puts underneath, "While I am not radical, I am ready. While I am not radical, I am ready to fly to DC in the middle of COVID-19 and lay my body on the floor of the United States Senate to prevent a vote from occurring before the next term of Congress." Yeah, but she says, "I'm not a radical." No, not a radical at all. All right, and so anyway, the Democrats are out of control. I think we all recognize that. In fact, they are dangerous. Yes, they're very dangerous. And if they had a few more brain cells, they'd be really dangerous. Yeah. Anyway, let's listen to this. I'm not sure how long this is, but let's just take a look here. It's 12 minutes, so we're not going to indulge in that today. That's a little bit too long, but I did want you to know that they are threatening to, they want to prevent this at all costs. And we know that they probably will, and what they will do, they've already been threatening violence. They're like, a bunch of 2-year-olds that scream and throw a tantrum and pound their fists on the floor when they don't get their own way because they are children. Adults don't behave that way. Adults don't threaten other people when they don't get their way. None of us really enjoyed having Obama as president. I certainly didn't, but I also recognize that he was duly elected. I just could never have seen myself going to the lengths that these people go to, even though I disliked Obama very, very much. It's the difference between being mature and being a 2-year-old. And most of the people that have been in the Democratic Party for a long time, like Pelosi, Schumer, Schiff, all those guys, they behave like children. And honestly, I think they behave like children because they have the maturity of a child. They have not matured properly because normal people don't do things like this. But anyway, let's go on now and let's look at this. Failed Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton set to launch podcast this month to host anti-Trump activists. Well, I would like to say this doesn't surprise me. And to mostly it doesn't surprise me. However, Hillary Clinton is one of the most disliked women in the world. So why would she be launching a podcast? Do you really think anybody's going to listen to it? Do you really think anybody even cares what Hillary has to say? I don't even think the Democrats care what Hillary has to say anymore, for real. And we know that her husband, Bill, doesn't care what she has to say. Do you remember when she was talking and he's like, you know, has his arms crossed and he's just kind of looking at her like, yeah, shut up already. Anyway, the 2016 failed Democratic presidential candidate, Hillary Clinton, is set to release her first episode of her podcast later this month, CNN reported Tuesday. The first episode of Clinton's podcast, called You and Me Both with Hillary Clinton, will be released on September 29th. According to the iHeartMedia, the company producing the series, the news from series producer iHeartMedia comes months after the show's initially planned release date, with Politico reporting in February that the podcast was set to begin airing in the spring. Interviews will include comedian Sarah Cooper, who has become known for her mocking posts for President Donald Trump, Gloria Steinem, the famed feminist and equal rights activist, Stacey Abrams. Yeah, we all know who she is. The former 2018 Georgia gubernatorial candidate, and Tan France, one of the hosts of Queer Eye. The production company said Clinton will comment on pressing political issues of our time and will tackle the subjects on so many people's minds, including topics like faith, resilience, and grief. And you know something? Topics like faith, why would anybody look to Hillary for topics of faith? Unless their faith is Luciferian. I don't know. I don't know why anybody would look to Hillary for topics like faith. But hey, Kono Byrne, president of iHeart Podcast Network, said the company is delighted to partner with her on this project. Byrne said the podcast will provide listeners with an astute, nuanced look at what's happening in the world right now. Nuanced, right. She's as subtle as a freight train. You really think it's going to be a nuanced look at what's happening? Right. Okay. Well, you know, they're all a bunch of comedians. And Hillary is the perfect moderator for those discussions. In what world? People magazine on Tuesday said the title of the upcoming 24-episode podcast, which Clinton recorded from her home in New York, comes from the public figure's reflections on the current political climate, particularly amid the coronavirus pandemic. As if we care what Hillary Clinton has to say about anything. Like, you would think they would catch a hint that she was not elected. She will never be elected. Nobody wants her in a position of power. So why would we want to hear from her? I mean, seems like common sense to me. Over the last few years, when people would talk to me about a concern of theirs or a problem that they faced, I found myself saying, well, you and me both, Clinton told People. It's because it became a catchphrase to sum up that a lot of us are worried about the same things and going through the same experiences. Earlier this month, a spokesperson for the Clinton Foundation told Deadline that former President Bill Clinton is also preparing to launch his own podcast early next year. Clinton Foundation Communications and Marketing Chief Craig Manassan said at the time that the show would highlight Bill Clinton's wide range of interests and well-known intellectual curiosity through conversations about the ideas and events that continue to shape his work and our world. Now, of course, it wouldn't work to have them both be in on the same podcast, because poor Bill would never get a word in edgewise. Yeah. All right. Let's go back now and continue on. Yeah. It's time to change. Hashtag kill Trump. Deported Canadian arrested for sending ricin to Trump may have tweeted about an attack days earlier. Yeah, it was a Canadian. I'm ashamed to say that. Poisoned letter told Trump to give up and remove your application for this election. And here they all have the same crazy eyes, like they do. I can't even make that look. I can't even make my eyes crazy like that if I want to. Anyway, authorities have identified the Canadian woman accused of sending President Donald Trump a letter containing the poison ricin. Pascal Ferrier of Quebec was taken into custody by U.S. Customs and Border Protection agents on Sunday at the Peace Bridge border crossing near Buffalo, New York. In the letter she sent to the White House, Ferrier told the president, In the letter she sent to the White House, Ferrier, she told the president to give up and remove your application for this election, according to court papers filed on Tuesday. CBC reported that a search was being carried out at an apartment near Montreal and that officials believe 6 letters were sent by Ms. Ferrier, 1 to the White House and 5 to addresses in Texas. Sheriff Eddie Guerra of Hidalgo County, Texas, said on Monday that he and 3 of his staff received mail tainted with ricin but were unharmed. The 5th letter is believed to have been sent to the police department in Mission, Texas. Ferrier previously lived in the U.S. and was arrested in Mission in March 2019. She was found to be using a fake driver's license and carrying an unlicensed weapon. After being jailed for 20 days, the charge was eventually dismissed. However, officials later learned that she had overstayed a 6-month visa and she was deported back to Canada. The computer programmer has been living in the Saint-Hubert district of Montreal for approximately a year. CNN reported that she was carrying a gun when arrested by CBP agents. Social media accounts appearing to belong to Ferrier document some of her movements in the U.S. in 2019 before her return to Canada and the start of a job hunt. On the 9th of September, a post from a Twitter account bearing her name agrees with another user about how they have been waiting years for someone to shoot Trump in the face. The response reads, "I just read this tweet. I agree. Nobody did anything. It's time to change. Hashtag killed Trump." The other tweet has since been deleted. The account follows just 11 other users, including the U.S. CBP, the Secret Service, FBI, Homeland Security, various Canadian law enforcement agencies, and the Sheriff of Hidalgo County. Heavy.com has found common themes across several social media accounts bearing the name Pascal Ferrier, including a Facebook page, La Techno Creative Nomad, and a LinkedIn profile of a woman employed by Pratt & Whitney Canada as a software configuration manager. The FBI is continuing to investigate with the assistance of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. A court hearing is scheduled for Tuesday afternoon. Well, I'm really glad that they caught the woman. It's a little dangerous to be just, sending out ricin packages. It's extremely deadly. So, no doubt about it. She definitely wanted to kill Trump with that letter. Absolutely. But she probably doesn't understand how it works, because they're not stupid enough to just take mail into them without, checking it out. Anyway, let's go on now and let's look at this, because this is pretty wild. Breaking: Bloomberg to pay fines for 32,000 felons in Florida so they can vote. And he's raised $16 million. Billionaire Michael Bloomberg has reportedly raised more than $16 million in an effort to help convicted felons in Florida register to vote. The Florida Rights Restoration Coalition estimated Bloomberg's fundraising push has already paid off monetary obligations for 32,000 felons, Axios reported. The right to vote is fundamental to our democracy, and no American should be denied that right, a Bloomberg spokesperson told the news outlet. Working together with the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, we are determined to end disenfranchisement and discrimination that has always driven it. Now, we know, he may make it sound good, but we know that he knows that they will vote Democrat, and that is the only reason why he's doing it. He has paid off monetary obligations for 32,000 felons, so there's 32,000 votes for the Democrat Party, I would assume. So yeah, that's exactly why he's doing it. It has nothing to do with, feeling bad for them because they're disenfranchised. Anyway, sorry, I had to take my socks off. I should just begin with my socks off because I take them off in every program. Whether you know that I'm doing it or not, I still take them off in every program. Yes, my feet are naked. Don't tell anyone. Bloomberg, who has committed at least $100 million to elect Biden in the state, raised the money from individuals and foundations over the past week, his advisor said. He saw the donations as a more cost-effective way of adding votes to the Democratic column than investing money to persuade voters who already have the right to vote, a Bloomberg memo says. Yeah, they want to concentrate on the criminals because traditionally they haven't been able to vote, but he's paying off their obligations so they can vote. Anyway, Florida passed a law in 2018 reinstating voting rights for felons that dictated they could register only if they pay all fines, fees, and restitutions, sometimes totaling more than $1,000 owed to the government. Voters in Florida approved a constitutional amendment during the 2018 midterms that restored voting rights to more than 1 million people previously convicted of felonies, except those in prison for murder or sex offenses, according to CNN. So what Bloomberg has done, because you are now able to vote, but you have to, if you have been incarcerated, but you have to pay off all the fines. So what Bloomberg and those that are raising money for this cause are doing is they're paying off all those fees so these people can vote. And how do you think they're going to vote? Yeah, we know how they're going to vote. So we know why they're doing it. All right, and let's look at this. This is a very strange story. I'm just warning you. It's a bizarre story. Like possibly one of the most bizarre. But I thought I'd throw this in here. Okay, so this is from today. Report, 23-year-old Texas man sentenced to 40 years in prison for plotting to rape and eat 13-year-old girl. This monster placed a wanted ad online looking for a person willing to be murdered, raped, and eaten. Thank God an undercover cop responded. Yes, thank God indeed. And this guy doesn't look like he's, real. He doesn't seem like he's the cream of the crop there. A wannabe cannibal from Texas has been sentenced to 40 years in prison for plotting to rape, kill, and eat a 13-year-old girl. The Sun reported that Alexander Barter, 23, was sentenced to 480 months in federal prison after pleading guilty to attempted coercion and enticement of a minor and distribution of child pornography. After his time in prison, Barter also agreed to submit to a lifetime of supervised release. Well, I should hope so. Barter was arrested after sharing a post on the dark web expressing his interest in necrophilia and cannibalism in October of 2018. I'd like to try necrophilia and cannibalism and see how it feels to take a life, he wrote. If you'd be willing to let me kill you, are in the U.S., preferably in the South, and can travel by car, contact me. An undercover sting was then set up, with a public safety officer responding, pretending to be a father with a 13-year-old daughter who he was willing to sacrifice. Barter was enthusiastic in replying, asking how old the girl was before saying, "Can we kill her?" Yeah, can't make this stuff up. Barter went on to hatch a plan to get the teenager to a hotel where he would kill her, have sex with her corpse, and then eat her. He went so far as to give the officer instructions on how to get away with the crime, suggesting they buy a burner phone and new clothes to wear after the murder. Barter was arrested on his way to a meetup spot with the undercover officer, and at the time he was carrying a bag with a knife, trash bag, cell phone, and tablet in it. Yeah, he meant business. U.S. Attorney Stephen Cox called the case chilling and applauded law enforcement for apprehending Barter before anyone got hurt. As this chilling case demonstrates, online talk is not always just talks, Cox said. The constant vigilance of our law enforcement partners has prevented an evildoer from finding a like-minded accomplice and bringing his grisly plan to fruition. This case is a sobering reminder of how the brave men and women of law enforcement face down the worst of the worst in the scariest of scenarios, he added. So, yeah, this is very, very interesting. And I don't think that this guy is going to do well in prison once the other prisoners find out that he was planning on killing, raping, and eating a 13-year-old girl. And he had come there with the, with the knife and everything. He was intending on doing it. And he was, I guess looking forward to it. But this is just a bizarre case, and it just shows you they're not all behind bars. They're out there. Very, very sick people. All right, and let's go here. Next. All right, now, after Obama's birth certificate is released, one Supreme Court Chief Justice drops major bombshell. Well, let's see what it is. There's been a theory going around for quite some time that Barack Obama was not born here in the United States. Well, he said it himself. He said he was born in, where was it? Nigeria? No. See, it's gone from my mind now. But anyway, he's definitely not born in the United States. The theory has been openly supported by former The theory has been openly supported by former Alabama Supreme Court Justice Roy Moore after Obama's own brother tweeted out an image that once again brought the issue of Obama being a birther into question. According to Moore, there is more than enough reason to cast doubt on Obama actually having been born in our country. During an appearance on CNN's K-File, he stated, "My opinion is there is a big question about that. My personal belief is that he wasn't. But that's probably over and done in a few days unless we get something else to come along." Moore was more than likely referring to the fact nobody really wants to go down this road, and anyone that does is openly attacked. The former Alabama Chief Justice has held this belief for quite some time. Back in 2008, he stated, "I don't see any reason a candidate who has such a serious question would not come forward with the truth about where he was born. Obama has the answer. He knows where he was born. If he tells something that's untrue, that's another matter. It's not an Obama issue, it's an American issue. It's about the Constitution of the United States." This was also an issue raised by Trump when he was a candidate in 2016 and years before. While the media has regularly spun this as a right-wing attack, that is not exactly true. Barack Obama's own brother has added fuel to the fire by tweeting out images of Obama's birth certificate. While Barack Obama has always maintained he was born in Hawaii, Kenya. The image his brother sent out was a birth certificate that appears to have originated in Kenya. We are 3 years after Obama's presidency, and yes, people are still talking about it because many believe that if Obama was not born here, he would not have our best interests at heart. From the divide he created when he was in office and the divide Democrats continue to cause today, it looks like they were all right. Absolutely. And personally, I think something should be done about it still, because I don't think anybody should be able to get away with that. Really. All right, and let's come back and let's look at this. This from Humans Are Free. Rockefeller Foundation's Operation Lockstep. Under the guise of a pandemic, we will create a prison state. And that's exactly what they're doing. I'm a bit worried, to tell you the truth, because it's been announced that all the channels that Trudeau has requested that all the channels be available to him tomorrow evening for an announcement to Canada. I'm a little apprehensive because I think it's going to be something to do with COVID. I've been hearing rumors that they are planning, and this was before. Now, first I heard there was rumors that they were going to lock us down again. And then, of course, the media played along by saying, "Oh, COVID's way up. Oh, it's terrible." So, yeah, I'm thinking that they're going to try and lock us down again. Kind of like maybe Australia. I don't know, but I don't feel good about it. I really don't feel good about it. And if it wasn't for my mother and my stepfather here, literally, I would pick up and go anywhere but here. But anyway, under the guise of a pandemic, we will create a prison state right from the horse's mouth, and it is not right. And it is not right now looking just like a police. Okay, not well written, but right from the horse's mouth. And is it not right? now looking just, is it not right now looking just like a police state? Until recently, you were not allowed to visit Aunt Edna across the country, and folks even in New Zealand have been receiving visits from the law enforcement for no particular reason. We are on the verge of a global transformation. All we need is the right major crisis, and the nations will accept the New World Order. David Rockefeller. And we've known that all they needed was that major crisis, and we have that in Corona. Yes, it was manufactured. Yes, there is a real virus, but it's the danger is minuscule. If you don't have several comorbidities, diabetes, this, that, whatever, you're probably very safe, unless you are very elderly. Well, even with the very elderly, the flu will kill the very elderly. So this is not the problem that they've made it out to be. And of course, we all know that. I'm preaching to the choir here. In other countries, they are being arrested. Australia for peacefully protesting, and Canada. Folks are now required to leave their personal contact detail if they shop anywhere, leaving them open for further visits by police. If you happen to have been in contact with an infected person, even when neither of you knew, and police are now allowed to enter your premise without a search warrant. That's right. Of course, all in the name of your safety, and happening elsewhere as we speak, and based on a crisis that has a death rate of 0.2%, no worse than seasonal flu. This all changed in New Zealand when draconian laws got passed with nary a protest from anyone except one sole MP. All kudos to Simon O'Connor for that. Thanks to the New Manhattan Project YouTube channel for the video below that explains concisely the Rockefeller plan to introduce martial law and a police state. You can find the PDF file linked to the actual document here. The lockstep operation begins at page 18. And I think I am going to leave a link to this because I think it's very important for you to see it. As I've been saying, these people have made no secret of their plans. They're right there in plain sight if you want to look. Unfortunately, most folk prefer to keep on listening to mainstream fairyland media and ignore what's really going on right under their noses. Guess who owns mainstream fairyland? Yeah. The scenario of martial law is described in a futuristic manner in the Rockefeller Foundation document as a scenario that's already happened. One important and novel component of our strategy toolkit is scenario planning, a process of creating narratives about the future based on factors likely to affect a particular set of challenges and opportunities. From the Foundation's statement of purpose, the Rockefeller Foundation supports work that expands opportunity and strengthens resilience to social, economic, health, and environmental challenges, affirming its pioneering philanthropic mission since 1913 to promote the well-being of humanity. Yeah, right. Yeah. We're from the government. We're here to help. Now, interesting, 1913 is a year they passed the Federal Reserve Act and heisted the Federal Reserve, which is their private corporation and not a state banking system. Their statement would be better worded, promote the well-being of we the bankers. In 1913, Senator Nelson Aldrich, maternal grandfather to the Rockefellers, pushed the Federal Reserve Act through Congress just before Christmas when much of Congress was on vacation. When elected, Wilson passed the Fed. Later, Wilson remorsefully replied, referring to the Fed, "I have unwittingly ruined my country." Note also, JFK acted to remove their monopoly on banking and interest profiteering in 1963, the same year he was assassinated. Now, this is the video, but I am thinking that it's probably going to be too long for us to watch. No, it isn't. It isn't. So let me, I'm going to make this bigger and we can take a look at this. Now, I have touched on this in the past, but I know that not everybody watches every video. So hopefully, if this isn't new to you, at least there's some aspects of it that may be new to you. But let me go ahead and make this bigger so that my tiny phone people can see.
Foundation's script plan to introduce martial law and a permanent method for total control of the citizenry. In this plan that they disguised as an academic scenario, as they called it, the method they would use to gain complete prison-like control of the entire population was to infect them with a devastating biological pandemic, and then, under the guise of protecting us from this threat, they would be free to implement their final solution, a prison state.
It's called lockstep, a world of tighter, top-down government control and more authoritarian leadership with limited innovation and growing citizen pushback. In 2012, the pandemic that the world had been anticipating for years finally hit. Unlike 2009's H1N1, this new influenza strain originating from wild geese, even the most pandemic-prepared nations were quickly overwhelmed when the virus streaked around the world, infecting nearly 20% of the global population and killing 8 million in just 7 months, the majority of them healthy young adults. The pandemic also had a deadly effect on economies. You can see the agenda. Just naked, raw, naked control agenda written down, and it's anybody's guess how this becomes effectuated in real life. So whether this is written specifically as marching orders or whether people take it upon themselves in the intelligence networks to say, okay, well, this has been produced, so this is the plan here. But these narratives have to be written in advance. Okay, the pandemic also had a deadly effect on economics. International mobility of both people and goods screeched to a halt. Which is what they want. They want a completely isolated world, right? Debilitating industries like tourism and breaking global supply chains. And they want you at home in your house in front of the TV. Then they got you. Because once you watch the TV, they own your soul. Even locally, normally bustling shops and offices sat empty for months, okay? So I love how they talk about it in the past tense in 2010.
Yeah, this, and I discussed this before when I brought this up. This report or whatever, it's written as if it's past tense, but it was written in 2010, and it's written about a future pandemic, which we're in, but it's written in the past tense as though it's already happened, and it's chilling to read. It really is chilling to read because it's exactly where we are right now. Is it possible to discipline and control some societies for some time, but not the whole world all the time? Let me read that again. It is possible to discipline and control some societies for some time, but not the whole world all the time. And that is J.K. Taru, Leading Edge India. Citizens willingly gave up some of their sovereignty and their privacy to more paternalistic states in exchange for greater safety and stability. Now, it's written as if it happened in the past, but it's what they're saying is citizens will be willing to give up their sovereignty and their privacy to more paternalistic states in exchange for their safety and stability. So that is that. Now, this is very, very critical. So I'm going to put a link in here to the actual document itself for you guys to be able to peruse at your will, or if you don't wish to look into it further, then that is your right. So, all right, now let's continue on because I want to squeeze as much as I can possibly squeeze in here. All right. Now, this is interesting, I think. Video, Hispanic immigration activist asks about Biden's broken promises. Biden answers with, "Go vote for Trump." Hardly any media coverage on this. Now, why not? CNN waited 12 hours to cover Joe Biden's "You ain't black" comment, while ABC, CBS, and NBC averaged only 1 minute of discussion about his shocking remarks. During an appearance on the Breakfast Club radio show back in May, the presumptive Democratic nominee told the black host, Charlemagne the God, that if you choose Trump over him, you ain't black. The comment rapidly went viral and drew condemnation from both sides of the aisle, but mainstream media cover-up and Biden's racist comments are nothing new. It's obvious that people don't like Biden, and he seems to forget that. Months before he would emerge as a frontrunner in the race for the Democratic presidential nomination, Joe Biden was one among a dense field of candidates all vying for face time with voters at campaign stops in crucial primary states. But as he made inroads in meetings and events with supporters, his campaign was marred by a series of awkward, condescending, and physical meetings with would-be voters in crowds and in forums in front of dozens of people and cameras. He grabbed lapels and hands, grew combative with difficult questions, told people they're wrong or told them to vote for someone else, including his rival Donald Trump. The former vice president called one man a liar and challenged him to push-ups, called a young climate activist a child, and told immigrants and environmentalists to vote for his opponent. Several months later, amid a public health crisis that in 2019 barely registered on the campaign trail, Mr. Biden heads to the Democratic National Convention as a likely nominee in an election framed by the crucial demands for an international emergency. But for the Democratic voters who left interactions with campaign Biden defeated and dismissed, there remains unanswered questions and concerns while the candidate collects endorsements from Democratic powerhouses and prepares to face Trump in November. Sylvia Moreno, an immigrants' rights leader with Dignidad Immigrante, stood up to address Mr. Biden at a campaign stop in South Carolina in November. Every day I live with the fear that immigration and customs enforcement will separate my family, she said in Spanish, speaking through Carlos Rojas, who translated for her. You defended the 3 million deportations under Obama's administration, and that is why it's hard for me to trust you, she said. I want to know whether you would stop deportations through executive action on your first day in office. Mr. Rojas, speaking on his own behalf, told Mr. Biden he volunteered for the Obama campaign in 2008 because he believed the promise that he made to the immigrant community. The fact is that over those 8 years, over 3 million people were deported and separated from families, he said. Mr. Biden cut him off. Well, you should vote for Trump then. Can you imagine? I mean, repeatedly, and we've seen this. I mean, I've showed many videos where somebody questions him and he gets combative. He does not like to be questioned on anything. So is that a person that would make a good president? I mean, you know, let's just forget about the fact that he's got dementia. And if he was of full mind, that still would not be somebody that we would want as a president, somebody that can't even deal with questions. And look at the hostile questions that Trump deals with almost every single day. The press has always been hostile towards him. So, yeah, that's not a good characteristic for a presidential candidate. But the fact that he has dementia kind of overrides it all. And the fact that he is also a crook, a huge crook. Woman says she's voting for Biden because Trump dodged her question in town hall. Well, there you go. That's from The Hill, but what do you expect from The Hill? So there you go. I don't know. I don't think, you know, I think he's just going to implode. I really do. I can't see him being able to hold up much longer. And if you've seen him lately, even when he was talking about Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, he was like, just so, like, honestly, he looked like he was, have you ever, you know, like right before you go to sleep and you know, you're talking to somebody and you're wanting to stay awake so you can tell them something and then you're just out. That's what he looks like all the time to me. Really. Anyway, let's go back now because there's more. There's always more. And let's look at this. I like this. Now, I know this is a few days old now. Well, maybe only 2 days old, but I love it because look at how they interact. She trips and he catches her. And I just think it's just a very tender moment between the two and totally unscripted. She goes to trip and he grabs her. Now, I know lots of people always say these nasty things like, oh, you know, she can't stand him and she doesn't want him to hold her hand and all that. I don't see that. I really don't. I think they really do love each other. You know, she had lots of money before she married him, and really she could have been with probably anybody she wanted to. She's an incredibly beautiful woman, and so all these people that say, oh, she's just with him for the money. And I don't believe that for a minute. She was she was doing very, very well without him, and also very well educated and very smart, brilliant woman. And I do believe that they get along well, and they're able to, I saw an interview where they just said that when they met, they just were able to connect so easily and talk so easily. And, well, a good marriage is based on friendship. It really is. So I think that's so awesome. I like seeing them together, and I don't believe they're pressed for a minute. All right, now this is very interesting. 25 children found in Ohio, 39 children found in Georgia, 123 found in Michigan. Media silent. Why are these not huge stories? They should be huge stories. They should be splashed all over the media. They should be staring at you from the newspapers. They should be everywhere. But they're not. Now, why? Now, part of it, I think they don't want to give any credit to this president. That's what I think part of it is. And part of it is they just don't like to draw attention to these sorts of things because many of them are involved in them. Anyway, if you hear something jingling, that's a cat toy. I'm not quite sure which cat toy, but it's one of them. They've got like a great big, oh gosh, it's a big wicker basket, and it's tall, and it's full of cat toys. Talk about being spoiled. But, that's why you have pets, right? To spoil them. All right, now this we've already looked at about the Bloomberg paying for these felons, so we don't need to look at that again, but let's look at this. Well, that's cats. That's the cats. All right, yes. Okay, this is our feel-good story. All right, this just really touched me. And this came from James Wood, but it says, hero, he's 13 years old and volunteers to be lowered into a coffin-like pipe to save a 3-year-old child. Just breathtaking. So I am going to play this in its entirety, and it is definitely a feel-good story. So, and we all need that. We all need a little bit of hope in this world. That's the mother. That's the 13-year-old boy. Showing incredible bravery, if you ask me. Now they're getting them back out. There's the boy, and there's the 3-year-old. And now, I think that's awesome. Now, how many 13-year-old boys would you know that would volunteer to do something like that? He was risking his life, and they lowered him in feet first. So, I mean, that's got to be scary. But he saved that little 3-year-old, and I just think that's awesome. I bet he's going to grow up to be one fine young man. All right, so let's come back here, and I like this by James Woods as well. It says, this is literally true. Every constitutional protection from tyranny was designed with a cackle of hyenas like this in mind. Yeah, and a cackle of hyenas is a good way to describe these folks right there. Yeah, our Constitution was written to stop people like this. And yeah, and I hope it does. All right, now what I'm going to do is let me see how we're doing for time here. Wow, gee, I got through this a lot quicker than I thought I would. So let's come back here and let's look at this. I mustn't have been dilly-dallying tonight. Schumer. Yeah, I know. I don't like listening to him either. Schumer, the American people don't want Republicans to move forward with a confirmation. They know this is wrong. No, it's not wrong. It's always been that if there is a vacancy, whoever is the president at the time of the vacancy is the one that nominates a new Supreme Court justice. That's how it's worked. That's how it works. It's the way it's always worked, not according to Chuck Schumer. And he presumes to know what all of the American people want. Yeah. That's what he's presuming to know what everybody wants. Well, he doesn't speak for me. I'm pretty sure he doesn't speak for you guys either. So let's listen to what he has to say here.
The American people don't want Republicans to move forward with a confirmation. They know this is wrong. A Reuters poll recent showed 62% of Americans said the vacancy left by Justice Ginsburg's passing should be filled by the candidate who wins on November 3rd.
Doesn't matter.
The next Supreme Court justice, of course, we know, could change the complexion of the court for a generation, and their decisions will touch every aspect of American life. The American people
you know
don't
what,
want Republicans.
Chucky? Consider this payback for what you all did to Kavanaugh, which was absolutely revolting. Absolutely revolting. You know what? Yeah, they can posture all they want and say, oh yeah, the polls say, like as if there was a poll done already. Give me a break. And, they can do whatever they want. But the fact is, it's a constitution. Whoever's the president at the time gets to pick or nominate, rather, the Supreme Court justice. That's the way it goes. Tough noogies. If she had hung on until then, it would be a different story, but maybe not, because we don't know that Trump's going to lose. I certainly hope he's not going to lose. Otherwise, I don't know where we'll all have to move to. Anyway, yeah. It's getting to the point now, after doing this for so long, that I know before it even happens what their arguments are going to be. And I even said, this is what they're going to try. They're going to try and lay the guilt on. And, oh, this is so wrong. This was her dying wish. Well, the Constitution doesn't provide for somebody's dying wish. Sorry. When she doesn't own that seat. Her name wasn't on it. So whoever is the president, when the seat vacates, which it has, they're the one that gets to nominate the Supreme Court justice. So that's the way it's always been. So why are the Democrats making it seem like, oh my gosh, what a brute he is nominating a Supreme Court justice. What a brute. It's always been this way, folks. You don't think that if Obama was in, do you think he would have waited until Trump got in to nominate a Supreme Court justice? Of course he wouldn't. They're just worried because, yes, it's going to change the landscape over the next generation. So, yeah, but why should the Democrats get to decide that? And chances are they wouldn't anyway, because, we know that Joe Biden's not going to get in. I don't know what they have up their sleeve, but they've got something up their sleeve. But I'm pretty confident that President Trump has something up his sleeve, and he's got bigger sleeves. I'm just saying. So that's what I choose to believe, because maybe it keeps me sane. But I guess we're not going to know until November. But I just can't believe that. No, I can't, and I won't believe that Trump's not going to win. It's not even, look at the momentum behind him. Everywhere he goes, he sells out everywhere. People love President Trump. They do. Not so much with Biden. They don't care. In fact, they were shouting at him somewhere he was, and they were saying, "Go home, Joe. Go home, Joe," and said, "You're going to lose to Trump." And he said, "Probably." I mean, he knows he doesn't have a chance. Anyway, this is our last item for this evening, and my computer is overheating again, so let me just stick something under there. All right, here we go. So this is from Newsweek. Must be raining outside. Queen Elizabeth II could be removed by more countries as the House of Cards fall. Now, I meant to bring this to you a lot sooner than now because this was from 9/16. It's now 9/22, so it's 6 days old. But hey, if you haven't heard it, it's worth hearing. Queen Elizabeth II could face a rash of countries removing her as head of state, with Barbados causing the House of Cards to fall, a royal expert has told Newsweek. The Caribbean island announced plans on Tuesday to remove the Queen as its head of state and achieve full sovereignty before the 55th anniversary of independence from the UK in November 2021. The move has triggered speculation of a domino effect among pro and anti-monarch commentators alike. Jamaica is widely tipped as the next country to remove the Queen, although the opposition to People's National Party lost a general election earlier this month after promising a referendum on becoming a republic. Ingrid Stewart, author of upcoming biography Prince Philip Revealed, told Newsweek, "I thought it was really sad about Barbados. I'd been there a lot because I had friends that lived there and they always seemed to like the Queen. It seems to me that once one country goes, the House of Cards falls a little bit." Prince Harry and Meghan Markle recently called for the Commonwealth, made up predominantly of countries in the former British Empire, to have a conversation about the past in order to move on from colonialism. However, Seward said she believes he may have also contributed to the problem with his own past behavior, including an infamous incident in which he wore Nazi uniform to a fancy dress party in 2005. Gosh, this is not wanting to cooperate here, this website. And my computer is really overheating. Okay. Graham Smith, chief executive of anti-monarchy campaign group Republic, said he believed many countries were merely waiting until Prince Charles becomes king before rejecting the crown. He told Newsweek, I would be surprised if other Caribbean countries and the smaller Commonwealth countries don't follow suit. Most of the realms are fairly small and have more in common with each other than with the U.S. I think they're likely to go down that road. Now, and I know, it's been talked about for a long time. And of course, as a Canadian, the Queen is highly regarded here. Now, I don't regard the Queen highly for other reasons, because I think that the family is into some nefarious things, to say the very least. But, I can understand why countries are wanting to, and they're wanting to break with that past of colonialism and be their own countries. And I understand that. I think that's good, and it should be up to them to decide. So it says, I think it boosts Australia's prospects as well. I think it's likely. It's a matter of when rather than if. It's unlikely to happen with Scott Morrison as Prime Minister, but I think the Queen's reign is getting toward the end, and that's going to focus the mind as well. Other Commonwealth countries abandoning the monarchy is also going to strengthen the argument, not least because they will show the way on how it's done. They'll stay in the Commonwealth as well. It's been speculated since as long as I've been doing this that if one goes, it will all start to unravel. And I believe that's probably the case. If one country goes, the rest are going to follow suit. So I just wanted to touch on that anyway, so that you would be aware of what's happening, because Barbados is talking very, very seriously of removing the monarch as the head of state. So I think, and I think that should be up to them to decide, personally. So anyway, that is it for tonight. I think I've touched on all the main stuff. Anyway, there's so much more happening out there. But anyway, that's it for tonight. So you guys stay safe, stay warm. Well, it's getting cold here. That's why I say stay warm, but it's probably in some of the lower United States anyway. It's still pretty warm there. So I wish I was there. But yeah, so you guys have a wonderful evening. Stay safe, stay well, and keep seeking truth. I will see you guys in the next video. I hope that you come back and seek truth with me, because I sure love to have you. Anyway, good night, guys.